There comes a time in every life when we must ask ourselves a simple but powerful question: who do I truly rely on? Too often, we place our strength in others, hoping they will carry us when we stumble, hoping they will rescue us when the road grows difficult. And while love, friendship, and community are blessings we should cherish, the truth remains: no one can walk your path for you. This lesson matters because life is not about waiting for someone to arrive and save you. It is about becoming the kind of person who does not need saving. Learning to depend on yourself is not an act of isolation. It is an act of empowerment. It is the recognition that your life, your dreams, and your destiny rest in your own hands. This audiobook is your guide to cultivating self-reliance. Across these chapters, we will explore the mindset, habits, and strength required to stand on your own feet. You will learn how to trust your own judgment, build inner resilience, and discover that everything you seek in others already exists within you. So take a deep breath and prepare to begin this journey. By the end, you will not only learn to depend on yourself, but you will discover the quiet, unshakable power that comes from knowing you are enough. To depend on yourself, you must first understand what self-reliance truly means. It is not about rejecting others or shutting out the world. Instead, it is about cultivating an inner core of strength so that your sense of worth, peace, and direction are not controlled by external circumstances. Think of a tree in the middle of a storm. The winds may howl, the rain may pour, and its branches may sway violently. But the tree does not collapse because its roots run deep into the ground. That is what self-reliance is. It is not about pretending that storms do not exist. It is about having roots so firmly planted within yourself that no storm can uproot you. When you depend too heavily on the opinions, validation, or approval of others, you become like a leaf carried by the wind, fragile, directionless, and easily lost. One compliment can lift you up, and one criticism can bring you crashing down. But when your roots are within yourself, you stand tall, no matter the season. You do not rise and fall with every passing breeze, because you know who you are. Self-reliance begins with responsibility. Responsibility is not always easy to embrace, but it is the foundation of strength. Each time you blame someone else for your failures, you also hand them your power. Each time you say, "I could have succeeded if only they had supported me," you admit that your progress depends on their choices. But true freedom comes when you recognize that your life belongs to you. Your decisions, your mistakes, and your victories are yours to claim. Consider a simple but powerful truth: nobody is coming to save you. This might sound discouraging at first, but it is actually the most liberating realization you can ever have. The moment you stop waiting for someone to rescue you is the moment you take ownership of your journey. You realize that the strength you were searching for in others has always been within you. Think of the young man who dreamed of becoming an artist. He longed for his family's approval before he dared to pursue his passion. Year after year, he hesitated, paralyzed by their doubts. They told him it was too risky, too uncertain. He believed that their blessing was necessary for his success. But one day, he finally understood. Their doubts would never vanish. The only approval he truly needed was his own. When he picked up the brush and started creating, he discovered something life-changing. That self-belief carries you farther than any outside validation ever could. This is the essence of self-reliance, living by your own convictions rather than borrowed opinions. It does not mean you ignore advice or shut yourself off from the world. It means that, at the end of the day, your compass points inward. You listen, you consider, but you decide for yourself. As you reflect on your own life, ask yourself this: am I rooted like the tree, steady in my own strength? Or am I like the leaf, drifting on the winds of others' voices? Your answer to this question will reveal whether you are truly standing on your own foundation, or whether you are waiting for the world to decide your direction. The good news is that self-reliance is a choice you can begin today. You do not need to wait until circumstances are perfect or until someone else gives you permission. With every decision you make for yourself, with every challenge you face, without leaning on others to carry the weight, your roots grow deeper. Self-reliance is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning. Like building a foundation for a house, it may not always be visible to others, but it supports everything that comes after. Without it, every achievement is fragile. With it, every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. So let this be the first stone you lay on your path of transformation, the commitment to stand on your own feet, to take responsibility for your choices, and to believe in your ability to guide yourself. From here, we will move forward into the deeper practices of independence and strength. But always remember, everything begins with the foundation. Every person has an inner voice, a quiet compass that guides decisions, whispers truth, and points the way forward. Yet, for many, that voice is drowned out by noise, the chatter of opinions, the expectations of family, the criticism of society, and even the self-doubt that echoes inside our own minds. To truly depend on yourself, you must learn to hear, trust, and follow your inner voice. Think about how often we seek advice before making a decision. There is nothing wrong with learning from others, but if you always wait for someone else to confirm your path, you rob yourself of growth. Guidance is helpful, but dependence on guidance can become a crutch. The key is not to silence outside input entirely, but to filter it through the wisdom of your own heart. Your inner voice is not loud or dramatic. It does not shout. It whispers in moments of stillness. It nudges you when something feels wrong, even if you cannot explain why. It encourages you when you stand before an opportunity that excites you, even if others do not see the value. Ignoring that voice often leads to regret, because deep down, you already knew what was right for you. You just didn't listen. Consider a young woman who dreamed of studying abroad. Her heart told her it was the chance of a lifetime. But friends reminded her of risks, family warned of distance, and society whispered fears of failure. For a time, she listened to them all, doubting herself. But her inner voice persisted. Finally, she chose to follow it, and the experience transformed her life. She discovered not only a new culture, but also her own strength. This is the reward of trusting your inner compass. It leads you to growth that no one else can predict. Trusting yourself does not mean you will never make mistakes. In fact, you will. But those mistakes become your teachers. They give you wisdom that can only come from experience. Depending too much on others may protect you from errors, but it also prevents you from truly living. It is better to fall while walking your own path than to succeed on a path that was never yours. How do you strengthen trust in your inner voice? Begin by creating space for silence. Step away from the noise. Whether it's constant media, endless conversations, or the pressure of comparisons, sit quietly, breathe deeply, and listen. Over time, your inner guidance grows clearer. The more you act on it, the more it proves itself reliable. Just as a muscle strengthens through use, so too does self-trust. Another practice is to look back at your past decisions. Think of times when you followed your instincts. How often did lead you toward growth or protect you from harm? Now recall the times you ignored your intuition. Did those choices leave you with lessons of regret? This reflection reveals a truth. Your inner voice has always been with you, guiding you faithfully. There is a saying, "The one who trusts others walks behind them, but the one who trusts himself walks ahead." When you depend only on outside voices, you walk in someone else's shadow. But when you listen to your own, you step into your light. As we move forward, remember this: self-reliance is not about arrogance, nor is it about dismissing wisdom from others. It is about balance, valuing input, but giving final authority to yourself. Only you live your life. Only you will bear the fruits of your choices. Therefore, only you can decide which path is right. Trusting your inner voice is an act of courage. It requires patience, practice, and faith. But as you strengthen it, you will discover the profound truth that the answers you seek have always been within you. One of the most important skills in learning to depend on yourself is developing trust in your own judgment. Too often, people hesitate, second-guess, or wait endlessly for others to confirm what they already know in their hearts. But if you cannot trust your own decisions, you will always remain a prisoner of doubt, chained to the approval of others. Think for a moment about the countless choices you make each day. Some are small. What to eat, what to wear, how to spend your morning. Others are larger. Whether to take a new job, pursue a dream, or step away from something that no longer serves you. Every decision, big or small, shapes the direction of your life. Yet many of us hesitate, fearing mistakes, fearing judgment, or fearing the unknown. But here is a truth worth remembering. No one else knows your life as intimately as you do. Others may give advice, but they cannot see the quiet battles you have fought. They cannot feel the weight of your dreams, or hear the voice within that whispers the path you were meant to take. To depend on yourself means to honor that inner voice. Of course, trusting your judgment does not mean recklessness. It is not about rushing into decisions without thought. Rather, it is about gathering wisdom, reflecting carefully, and then standing firmly behind the choice you make. You must learn to silence the noise of endless opinions and return to the stillness within, where clarity resides. Consider the story of a woman who dreamed of starting her own business. Her friends told her it was too risky. Her family warned her about failure. For months, she felt torn between their voices and her own. Finally, she asked herself a simple question. If I ignore the doubts of others, what do I truly want? The answer was clear. She wanted to build something of her own. She chose to trust her judgment. In time, her business flourished. Not because the path was easy, but because she learned to honor her own wisdom. Trusting your judgment is also about embracing mistakes. Yes, you will make choices that don't turn out the way you hoped. But each mistake is a lesson, not a life sentence. Think of every wrong turn as part of the map that eventually leads you home. By learning from your experiences, you sharpen your intuition and grow stronger. If you fear mistakes so much that you never choose, you remain stagnant, standing still while life moves on without you. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you begin to trust yourself. It is the confidence of knowing that, no matter what happens, you will figure it out. This inner assurance is more valuable than any advice or validation, because it means you are no longer dependent on external approval. You carry your compass within you. As you listen now, reflect on your own life. Where have you waiting for others to decide for you? Where have you silenced your own intuition out of fear of being wrong? Understand this. Your judgment may not always be perfect, but it is yours, and that makes it powerful. Each time you trust it, you strengthen it, like a muscle that grows with use. The world is filled with voices trying to tell you who you should be, what you should do, and how you should live. But only one voice must guide your steps, the one within. Begin today by listening to it, honoring it, and acting on it. Trusting your own judgment is not the absence of fear, but the presence of courage. And with that courage, you will find the freedom that only self-reliance can bring. One of the greatest steps in learning to depend on yourself is cultivating the ability to trust your own judgment. Life presents us with countless choices, some small and seemingly insignificant, others monumental and life-defining. Too often, we hesitate, paralyzed by fear of making the wrong decision. We ask for endless advice, seek reassurance, or wait for someone else to choose for us. Yet every time we avoid deciding for ourselves, we weaken the muscle of self-reliance. Trusting your judgment does not mean you will never make mistakes. On the contrary, mistakes are an inevitable part of growth. To depend on yourself, you must accept that mistakes are not signs of weakness. They are stepping stones to wisdom. Every wrong turn teaches you something vital: what works, what does not, and who you are becoming in the process. A life lived without decisions is a life lived without learning. Imagine a traveler standing at a crossroads. The signs are unclear, and no guide is nearby. The traveler waits for hours, hoping someone will appear to point the way. But no one comes. The sun begins to set. In the end, the traveler realizes that not choosing is itself a choice to stay stuck. When you hesitate too long, you allow life to pass you by. Progress belongs not to the one who always chooses correctly, but to the one who chooses courageously. The truth is, you already carry within you a compass. It is your intuition, your reasoning, your inner wisdom, shaped by experience. The more you listen to it, the stronger it becomes. Think back to a moment when you followed your instincts, even when others doubted you. Perhaps it was leaving a job that drained your energy, or walking away from a relationship that no longer honored you. At first, the decision may have been frightening, but later you realized it was the right one. That sense of quiet certainty, the voice that whispered, "This is the way," was your inner compass guiding you. Trusting yourself requires courage, but also patience. You will not always see the entire path ahead. Often, only the next step is visible. Yet you must take that step. Confidence grows not from certainty, but from movement. Every time you choose, you build proof that you are capable. With each decision, you reinforce the truth: I can rely on me. Of course, wisdom also lies in balance. Trusting yourself does not mean ignoring advice, knowledge, or perspective from others. It means weighing that input, but ultimately making the choice that aligns with your own values. Dependence says, "I cannot decide unless someone else tells me." Self-reliance says, "I will listen, I will learn, but I will decide." A well-known saying reminds us, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." In the same way, trusting your judgment begins with small decisions. Choose what feels right for you today, what to focus on, how to spend your energy, what step brings you closer to your goals. These small acts of self-trust accumulate into a foundation strong enough to carry the weight of larger choices. As you practice, you will notice something extraordinary. The fear of making mistakes will lessen. The uncertainty will no longer paralyze you. Instead, you will stand at life's crossroads with steady feet, knowing that whatever path you take, you will learn, you will grow, and you will continue forward. That is the essence of self-reliance, not perfection, but the quiet confidence that you can handle what comes. So ask yourself now, what decision have I been delaying, waiting for someone else to confirm? Recognize that the answer is already within you. Trust it. Act on it. Every decision you make for yourself strengthens the bond of trust between you and the person you will depend on for the rest of your life. Yourself. This is the heart of Chapter 4. The courage to listen inwardly, to decide boldly, and to believe in the wisdom that already resides within you. One of the greatest challenges in learning to depend on yourself is learning to trust your own judgment. In a world overflowing with opinions, advice, and noise, it can feel easier to let others decide for us. Yet, every time you hand your decisions to someone else, you weaken the very muscle of self-reliance you are trying to build. Think back to a time when you had a decision to make, perhaps choosing a career path, a relationship, or even a personal goal. Did you hesitate, waiting for someone to tell you what to do? Did you find yourself seeking validation from friends or family, hoping they would assure you that your choice was correct? This is natural, but if it becomes a pattern, it leaves you trapped in dependency. Trusting your judgment does not mean you will always be right. It means you are willing to take responsibility for the outcome, whatever it may be. Even when mistakes happen, they are not failures, but lessons carved into your experience. A person who never dares to trust themselves will remain stuck, endlessly circling in hesitation. But a person who acts, learns, and adjusts grows stronger with every decision. Imagine a sailor setting out to sea. He has studied the stars, the wind, and the map. But when the storm comes, there is no one to guide him. He must rely on his instincts and training. If he waits for absolute certainty before raising the sails, he will never leave the shore. Trusting your own judgment is like sailing into the unknown. You may not have all the answers, but movement itself brings clarity. The truth is, other people's advice is often colored by their fears, doubts, or limitations. They may mean well, but they cannot see the vision inside of you as clearly as you do. Depending too much on others for direction is like letting someone else wear your shoes and walk your path. They might offer suggestions, but they cannot feel the blisters, the stones, or the terrain beneath your feet. Only you can. To build trust in your own judgment, start small. Begin with daily decisions. What projects to pursue, how to spend your time, what goals to set for the week. Notice when you feel the urge to immediately ask for approval. Pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I am capable of choosing. With each decision, you strengthen your confidence. Over time, this quiet self-trust will carry into larger, life-shaping choices. There is a simple but powerful truth. The voice you most need to hear is your own. Deep within, you already know what feels right, what path resonates with your soul, and what step aligns with your values. The challenge is not about finding the answer, but about silencing the noise long enough. To yourself clearly. When you trust your own judgment, you begin to discover a freedom like no other. You no longer wait for approval. You no longer hesitate, paralyzed by the fear of disappointing others. Instead, you move forward with calm assurance, knowing that even if the road twists and turns, you are strong enough to adjust. So ask yourself, where in my life have I silenced my own voice to follow another's? What decisions am I delaying because I fear making the wrong choice? Then remind yourself that the greatest mistake is not choosing wrong. It is refusing to choose at all. Dependence on others may feel safe in the moment, but in the long run, it robs you of growth. Self-reliance is forged in the act of deciding, in the willingness to trust yourself enough to walk boldly into the unknown. In this chapter, remember, trusting your judgment is not about certainty. It is about courage. The courage to listen within, to take responsibility, and to walk your own path with dignity. And as you do, you will realize that the person you were waiting for has been here all along. It has always been you. One of the greatest milestones on the journey of self-reliance is learning to trust your own judgment. Too often, we second-guess ourselves. We seek endless advice, compare our path to others, and hesitate to act until we receive approval. This hesitation may seem harmless, but in truth, it quietly erodes our confidence and prevents us from moving forward with clarity and strength. To depend on yourself, you must develop the ability to make decisions with conviction, even when the outcome is uncertain. After all, every choice in life carries risk. There will never be perfect certainty, but when you can stand firmly by your own decisions, even mistakes become teachers rather than failures. Imagine a sailor navigating across an open sea. The compass in his hand is his judgment. If he constantly throws it aside and asks every passing ship which direction to sail, he will drift endlessly, never finding his destination. But if he learns to trust the compass, imperfect as it may seem, he will eventually chart his course. Your inner compass is the same. It is your intuition, your reasoning, and your life experience. To ignore it is to wander aimlessly. To trust it is to move with purpose. Of course, trusting your judgment does not mean rejecting wisdom from others. Guidance, mentorship, and advice are valuable, but they should be sources of insight, not crutches for indecision. If you allow others to make choices for you, you surrender your power. If you listen, reflect, and then decide for yourself, you grow stronger with each step. Think of a time in your life when you hesitated to act because you were unsure. Perhaps you asked several people for their opinions, and they all gave different answers. In the end, you may have felt more confused than when you started. Now compare that to a time when you trusted your gut, made a decision, and accepted the outcome with peace. Which of those moments gave you strength? Which left you feeling more capable? The difference lies in ownership. When the choice is yours, even the struggle becomes a building block of confidence. Here is a truth worth remembering. The more you trust your judgment, the sharper it becomes. Confidence is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it grows. At first, you may feel uncertain. You may fear making mistakes. But the only way to overcome that fear is to act. Each decision you make builds your capacity to decide the next one with greater clarity. History is filled with examples of people who trusted their judgment. Despite the doubts of the world, they listened to their inner voice and dared to follow it. In doing so, they achieved greatness. Not because they were always right, but because they were willing to claim responsibility for their choices. This willingness gave them courage, and courage is what opens the door to progress. As you reflect on your own life, consider this. Are you living by your own compass? Or are you borrowing someone else's? The truth is, no one knows your heart, your dreams, and your potential better than you do. Others may see fragments of your journey, but you carry the whole story within you. Trusting your judgment is not about arrogance. It is about honoring the wisdom that life has already placed inside you. It is about saying, I am capable. I am prepared. I will take this step, and if I stumble, I will rise stronger. Dependence on yourself grows when you realize that you need no outside permission to pursue the life you envision. The courage to decide for yourself is the bridge between thought and action, between dreaming and becoming. And once you cross that bridge, you will never again feel powerless. One of the greatest challenges in life is learning to trust the quiet voice within you. Every day, the world surrounds you with noise, opinions, expectations, demands, and judgments. Some of this noise comes from those you love, others from strangers who know nothing about your journey. If you are not careful, the external voices can drown out your own, leaving you uncertain, hesitant, and disconnected from who you truly are. But self-reliance requires that you return to your inner compass. Depending on yourself does not mean you have every answer from the start. It means you are willing to listen inwardly, to trust your instincts, and to make choices even when others may not agree. Think about the times in your life when you felt something deeply in your heart, an idea, a decision, and yet you pushed it aside because someone else told you it was unrealistic, foolish, or impossible. How many of those moments still live within you as quiet regrets? The lesson here is clear. When you silence your own voice for too long, you lose the most important guide you will ever have. Imagine you are standing at a crossroads. One road is well lit, filled with travelers. Everyone tells you this is the safest path, the one most people take. The other road is narrow, dim, and uncertain. Few have gone that way, and many warn against it. But deep within, you feel pulled toward the uncertain road. That is your inner voice speaking. It whispers not of comfort, but of growth. The question is, will you trust it? Self-trust is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Start small. Make daily choices, guided by your own judgment, instead of waiting for approval. It could be something as simple as choosing a project you feel passionate about, even if others doubt its value. With each decision, you will feel your confidence expand. And as your confidence grows, so too does your independence. There is a simple truth to remember. The world is full of people projecting their own fears onto you. When someone tells you that your dream is impossible, it is often because they cannot imagine doing it themselves. If you rely on their limits, you will inherit their cage. But if you rely on your own voice, you inherit freedom. Consider the story of a woman who wanted to start her own business. Her friends told her it was risky. Her family urged her to choose stability instead. For months, she hesitated, torn between their advice and her own conviction. At last, she chose to listen to herself. It was not easy. There were failures, long nights, and moments of doubt. But years later, she stood in her office, leading a thriving company, grateful that she had trusted her own inner compass, rather than letting others define her path. Trusting your inner voice does not mean rejecting wisdom or refusing to learn from others. Guidance can be valuable, but it means that the final choice, the decisive step, must always come from you. Listen, learn, but then turn inward and ask, what do I truly feel? What aligns with my deepest values? What path gives me peace, even if it gives me fear? The great reward of self-trust is peace of mind. When you depend too much on others, you live in constant doubt, always wondering if you made the right choice, if they will approve, if you should have done differently. But when you depend on yourself, even your failures become valuable, because they are yours. They teach you, shape you, and prepare you for the next step. So let this be the lesson of this chapter. Cultivate the courage to trust your inner voice. It is not always loud. It may whisper softly in the middle of the night, or in the stillness of your thoughts. But it is there, steady and waiting. The more you listen, the more you will realize everything you need has been within you all along. There is a quiet power in being alone, a power most people overlook because they fear it. Solitude often carries a negative reputation, mistaken for loneliness, rejection, or emptiness. Yet, when embraced with purpose, solitude becomes a forge. It is in moments of stillness, away from the noise of the world, that you can truly hear yourself. Depending on yourself requires more than practical skills or decisive actions. It requires an inner strength that cannot be shaken by the absence of others. When you learn to stand in solitude, you learn that your worth is not defined by constant company, by applause, or by recognition. Instead, your worth is anchored in your ability to sit quietly with yourself and know you are enough. Think of history's greatest achievers. Their breakthroughs rarely came in crowded rooms. They came in silence, in reflection, in the long hours when no one was watching. Solitude provides the clarity that distractions cannot. It allows you to ask yourself questions others cannot answer. What do I truly want? What matters most to me? What am I willing to stand for, even if I stand alone? But solitude is not only about reflection. It is also about resilience. When you choose to spend time alone, you train your spirit to find contentment within itself. You stop reaching outward for constant reassurance and start cultivating inner stability. This stability is what makes you unshakable when challenges arise. Because if you cannot rely on your own presence, then no amount of external company will make you whole. Consider this: many people jump from one relationship, friendship, or group to another because they cannot bear silence. They fear their own thoughts, so they drown them out with endless conversations and distractions. But avoidance does not build strength. Only by facing yourself can you grow. Imagine climbing a mountain. Along the way, there may be guides, companions, and supporters. But the final steps to the summit, the most difficult and defining moments, are yours alone. No one can take them for you. Solitude is like those final steps. It reveals your true character, your true courage, and your true independence. If you have ever sat quietly, perhaps in a park, a room, or a quiet morning, before the world awakens, you may have felt this. At first, silence can feel uncomfortable, even heavy. But then, something shifts. The stillness no longer feels empty, it feels full. Full of thoughts. Full of possibilities. Full of the realization that you are capable of carrying yourself. This is the gift of solitude. It transforms emptiness into strength. Learning to depend on yourself means learning to value this time. Solitude does not mean you reject relationships or avoid connection. It means you no longer need them to define you. You can enjoy them freely because your happiness does not depend on them. A wise reminder to carry with you: he who learns to walk alone is never truly lost. When you master the art of being at peace with yourself, you discover that you are never without support. For you have yourself, and that is enough. So, make space for solitude in your life. Switch off the noise for a while. Spend time reading, writing, walking, or simply breathing in silence. At first, it may feel unusual, even uncomfortable, but with time, you will notice how much stronger, clearer, and more confident you become. When you no longer fear being alone, you will never again feel powerless. Because solitude is not isolation, it is preparation. And it is in this preparation that you build the unshakable strength to depend fully on yourself. There is a quiet voice within you. It is not loud, nor does it shout for attention, but it is always present. This voice is your intuition, your inner compass, the part of you that knows what is right long before the mind begins its endless debate. To depend on yourself, you must learn to listen to, and most importantly, to trust this voice. Many people live disconnected from their inner wisdom. They allow the noise of the world to drown it out. The opinions of others, the demands of society, the endless stream of comparisons. They hesitate, waiting for reassurance before moving forward. But the truth is, no amount of outside approval can ever replace the clarity that comes from within. Think of those moments in your life when you knew what to do, even if it defied logic or the advice of others. Perhaps it was leaving a job that felt wrong, ending a relationship that drained you, or seizing an opportunity that others said was impossible. That knowing, that feeling deep in your chest, is your inner guide, and when you followed it, chances are you discovered that it led you closer to the life you were meant to live. The challenge is that trusting yourself requires courage. The world often teaches us to doubt, to second guess, to look outside for direction. From childhood, we are taught to raise our hands for permission, to wait for authority, figures to tell us what is acceptable. This conditioning does not disappear easily. Yet, if you are to live a life of independence and strength, you must unlearn the habit of constant approval seeking and return to the wisdom of your own heart. Imagine you are a sailor navigating the ocean. Others may offer advice about the tides, the stars, or the winds. Their guidance can be useful, but ultimately, you are the one at the helm. You must decide whether to turn east or west, whether to sail into the storm or wait for calmer waters. Your inner voice is like the compass that never fails, even when the skies are clouded and the horizon is unclear. One way to strengthen this trust is through solitude. When you spend time in silence, away from the endless chatter of the world, you begin to hear yourself more clearly. Journaling, meditation, long walks without distraction. These practices open the door to your inner wisdom. Over time, the voice that once seemed faint grows stronger, more confident, and more reliable. Another way is through small acts of trust. Begin with simple decisions, choosing what you truly want to eat, how you wish to spend your time, or which project excites you most. Each time you choose according to your authentic self, you prove to yourself that your judgment can be trusted. These small victories build confidence for the larger decisions that shape your future. Of course, trusting your inner voice does not mean ignoring reason or wisdom from others. It means integrating guidance without being enslaved by it. Seek advice, listen to perspectives, but let the final decision rest with you. True self-reliance is not arrogance. It is the calm conviction that, even if the world disagrees, you can stand by your own choices. There is a saying, "He who listens to everyone listens to no one." If you chase every voice outside of you, you will end up scattered, confused, and powerless. But when you choose to listen first to yourself, you anchor your life in clarity and purpose. As you move forward, remember this: your intuition is a gift. It is not something you must earn. It is already yours. The more you trust it, the more dependable it becomes. And with every decision made in alignment with your inner compass, your confidence in yourself deepens. Self-reliance reaches its peak when you know that, even in uncertainty, even when the world offers no guarantee, you can depend on your own wisdom to guide you forward. Trust that voice. It is leading you home. There comes a moment in every journey where you will find yourself standing alone. The crowd that once surrounded you will thin. The friends who cheered may fall silent. Even family may not fully understand the choices you've made. This moment of solitude is not a punishment. It is a passage. And learning to depend on yourself means embracing solitude, not as emptiness, but as strength. Many people fear being alone. They see solitude as a sign of rejection or loss. Yet, solitude is where the deepest transformations occur. It is in silence that you hear your true voice. It is in stillness that you discover what you truly want, beyond the noise of expectation. To depend on yourself is to understand that you are never really alone. You carry within you the strength, the wisdom, and the guidance you need. Consider the great oak tree standing alone in the middle of a vast field. It has no forest to shield it from the storm, no neighboring tree to block the harsh winds. And yet, year after year, it grows stronger, its roots digging deeper into the earth, its trunk thickening, its branches stretching toward the sky. That oak does not wait for protection. It becomes its own protection. You too can become like that oak, resilient, grounded, unshakable. There may be times when solitude feels heavy. You might long for encouragement, for someone to remind you that you are capable. But here is the truth. When you learn to give yourself that encouragement, you will never again be at the mercy of absence. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, looking into your own eyes, and speaking words of strength to yourself. You are enough. You are capable. You are prepared. This act of self-assurance is not mere comfort. It is fuel for independence. Think of inventors, explorers, and pioneers who ventured into the unknown. They did not wait until the path was lined with supporters. They moved forward, even when no one believed, even when no one walked beside them. Their strength came from within. You too can cultivate that same power. When you stop fearing solitude, you discover freedom. You no longer depend on the constant presence of others to validate your journey. One practical way to strengthen your relationship with solitude is through intentional reflection. Set aside time each day to sit quietly with yourself, free from distractions. Ask yourself, what am I proud of today? What can I improve tomorrow? What do I truly desire in this life? As you practice this, you will find that the answers you seek are not scattered outside of you. They are waiting patiently within. Another practice is self-celebration. Too often, we dismiss our own victories because no one else noticed. But when you learn to honor your achievements, no matter how small, you reinforce your self-reliance. Did you keep a promise to yourself today? Celebrate it. Did you push through a challenge alone? Acknowledge it. Every moment of recognition you give yourself strengthens the bond between who you are and who you are becoming. Remember, this solitude is not the same as loneliness. Loneliness is a longing for what is absent. Solitude is an embrace of what is present, yourself. When you make peace with solitude, you discover that you are your own companion, your own teacher, your own guide. This is the height of self-dependence, the ability to stand tall, even when no one else is standing with you. As you walk this journey, let solitude no longer frighten you. Instead, see it as a sanctuary, a place where you gather your strength, where you sharpen your vision, and where you deepen your roots. Because when the storms of life come, and they always do, it is not the crowd that will hold you steady. It is the strength you have built within yourself. So the next time you find yourself standing alone, do not shrink. Stand tall like the oak in the field. Root yourself in courage. Stretch your branches toward possibility. And remember, you already have everything you need. There is a moment in every journey when the weight of dependence begins to lift, and what replaces it is a profound sense of freedom. To truly depend on yourself is to release the chains of waiting, to let go of the illusion that someone else must pave the road before you can walk it. It is not isolation. It is not loneliness. It is liberation. Think for a moment about the countless times in your life when you hesitated, when you postponed action, because you thought you needed permission, approval, or partnership. Those pauses may have felt harmless at the time, but each one delayed your growth. Each one kept you waiting at a locked door, hoping someone else would bring the key. The truth is, you always had the key in your pocket. Self-dependence is simply the act of reaching for it. When you stand firmly on your own, something remarkable happens. You stop fearing loss. You no longer fear the absence of constant support, because you have learned to create your own. You no longer fear disappointment, because You no longer expect others to carry a weight that was always yours. This is why true independence brings peace. It teaches you that, while relationships may enrich your life, they do not define it. Consider a traveler setting out on a long road. At first, they may wish for company, someone to reassure them, someone to guide them. But with every step they take alone, their confidence grows. The path no longer feels threatening because they learn that they can read the signs, carry their own pack, and navigate their own way. Soon, what once felt like fear turns into joy. The joy of knowing that they are capable. This is the freedom self-dependence offers. Freedom also means courage. When you depend on yourself, you gain the courage to try, to fail, and to rise again without shame. You stop waiting for perfect circumstances and realize the act of beginning is more important than the guarantee of success. You understand that mistakes are not proof of weakness, but proof of movement. And movement, even imperfect movement, is how lives are transformed. Think of the innovators, the dreamers, the builders of history. Each of them, at some point, had to walk alone. They had to take a step without applause, without assurance, without certainty. What carried them forward was not the promise of support, but the strength of their own conviction. That same strength lives within you. It may be quiet at first, hidden beneath layers of doubt or fear, but it is there, and when you choose to lean on it, it grows. Self-dependence is not the end of connection. In fact, it deepens connection. Because when you no longer cling to others out of fear, you can truly love them out of freedom. You can give without the burden of expectation. You can receive without the shadow of dependence. You stand whole, and in doing so, you invite others to meet you as equals, not as crutches. This is the freedom of self-dependence, the freedom to rise, to choose, to act, and to live on your own terms. The freedom to say, I am enough, I can build, I can create, I can endure, and I can thrive, even if no one else walks beside me. And paradoxically, it is often when you reach this point that life brings you the strongest companions, because strength attracts strength, and freedom inspires freedom. So as you step into the final chapter of this journey, remember this truth. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the power to stand tall, rooted in your own being. Others may come and go, but the foundation you have built within yourself will remain unshakable. Depend on yourself, and you will discover a freedom that no one can ever take away. We have walked together through a journey, chapter by chapter, lesson by lesson, toward one simple but life-changing truth. You must learn to depend on yourself, not because the world is unkind, not because people cannot be trusted, but because your life is too precious to be placed entirely in the hands of others. When you depend on yourself, you discover the essence of true freedom. You are no longer held hostage by the opinions, moods, or decisions of those around you. You rise each morning with the quiet confidence that, whatever the day brings, you carry within you the strength to face it. This does not mean you must walk alone. It means you walk whole. Throughout these chapters, you have seen that self-reliance is not built in a single moment. It is cultivated through responsibility, courage, resilience, and trust in your own inner wisdom. You have learned that blaming others weakens you, while taking ownership of your choices empowers you. You have seen that waiting for approval is a trap, and granting yourself permission is the first true act of independence. You have been reminded that failure is not an end, but a teacher. And most importantly, you now know that depending on yourself is not a rejection of love or community. It is the very thing that allows you to love more freely and live more fully. Think back on the image of the tree with deep roots. That tree does not stand strong because the wind is gentle, but because its foundation is firm. Life will continue to bring its storms, but storms no longer have the power to uproot you when your roots are within yourself. You are that tree. Your strength, your decisions, your perseverance. These are your roots. The deeper you cultivate them, the taller you will stand. Self-dependence is not about arrogance. It is about alignment. It is not about closing yourself off. It is about standing open and unafraid. To depend on yourself is to understand that while the world can inspire you, guide you, and support you, it cannot live for you. That responsibility and that privilege belongs to you alone. And here lies the greatest reward. Once you learn to depend on yourself, you stop searching for rescue and start creating your own path. You stop clinging to certainty and instead move forward with faith in your own ability to adapt and overcome. You stop asking, "Will someone be there for me?" and begin declaring, "I will be there for myself." This shift changes everything. It changes how you pursue your dreams, how you face challenges, and how you relate to others. It changes your posture in life, from one of waiting and wishing to one of building and becoming. Now, I ask you to carry this with you. Self-reliance is not a destination, but a practice. Each day, you will face moments where you can either lean outward or lean inward. Each day, you will have the choice to either surrender your power or claim it. Choose to claim it. Choose to remind yourself again and again that you are capable, that you are resilient, and that you are enough. The final message I leave with you is simple but powerful. Stand tall. Trust yourself. Build your life on the unshakable foundation of your own strength. And let every step you take be a testament to the truth that do not need to be carried. You were born to walk your own path. Others may walk beside you. Some may cheer you on, some may doubt you, some may even walk away. But you will keep moving. You will keep growing. You will keep rising. Because you have learned the greatest lesson of all. how to depend on yourself. And in that self-dependence, you will find not only strength, but peace. Not only resilience, but freedom. And not only survival, but the power to create a life that is truly, authentically, and unshakably yours.